I have a huge announcement about Foxresto. Well, try the coil first. Well, try my spark plugs first.
We call that throwing parts at a car or just throwing money at a car and wasting money.
Are you ready to start accepting cars now? Hello and welcome to Gearhead 704. I'm Matt, and look at these beautiful Fox bodies we have here today. Well, this is for a reason. This was actually the thumbnail of this video. If you clicked on this video, this is how we made it. But what we really want to talk about today is inside these doors. I am at Fox Mustang Restoration. They have been a long-time partner of the channel. We've done a lot of work. In fact, this car was completely put back together pretty much. I mean, not paint, but as far as drivetrain, here at this shop on this channel. That was done with myself and Matt, who's the co-owner, as well as Della, who works here, and we put it all back together, and you know what? It's done great ever since. I've got almost 5,000 miles on the engine since I put the engine in. Car is running great. But the reason why I bring that up is Matt had all the right tools and of course knowledge to work on this car, but one thing Matt did not do at the time is he did not take customer cars to work on them. However, you hear I said at the time. And that's what we're gonna talk about today, guys. I have a huge announcement about Foxresto and what they are going to begin to be doing with these Fox bodies. Not these Fox bodies, any Fox body, but this one actually is gonna be the first one. Pretty exciting. Let me go inside, tell you more about it. You definitely wanna stay tuned for this one. So let's get going. Before we go inside the shop, guys, for the big announcement, I do wanna show you what we have out here in what I call the Fox Body Boneyard. Of course, that F100 is mine, ignore that, but every other car out here is just about a Fox body. There's a Crown Vic over there. But other than that, mainly all Fox bodies. And what's important about this is pretty much all these are Matt's. I think there's one that's not. That is a buddy of Matt's. That's not Matt's car there, that white GT. Had a video on that, turbocharged, but anyway, Pro Charger. This 86 is Matt's, and what I want to highlight is there's lots of parts you can get off cars out here. In fact, this one doesn't look like much anymore. You see a cow's missing. Well, you want to know why? I actually stole that cowl from my car, which is inside, which we're going to check out. But the big point being, Matt has access to all kinds of used parts from these salvage cars. He's got the parts he needs to be able to rebuild your car here. We're going to talk a little bit more about that inside, but yes, he is going to start. I'm going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. He is going to start working on customer cars. That's something that they used to do a long time ago. He stopped it for the last several years, but he's decided, you know what? He wants to go ahead and start working on customer cars again here right at the shop. And he's got some great tools to do it, some excellent knowledge. So let's go ahead, go inside, talk to Matt, let him show you some of the tools. And I'm just really excited about this. I'm gonna get to come here every Saturday and see some of these cars. That's when I normally come and film on Saturday. But see some of these awesome cars, awesome Fox bodies. And I love Fox bodies. That's what the channel's all about. Anyway, enough talking, let's get inside. All right, it is dark in here right now. We're gonna get up front where Matt is here in a second, but this is the cow I just mentioned. Came off that feature car. In the process of welding that on. This is an SSP car of mine, Nemesis, but yeah, that's a perfectly fitting name for me. It is my Nemesis. Anyway, you can see other Fox bodies here. This is Matt's 85 T-top. This is the recent customer car you saw out front there. This is another project of Matt's. It's his 85 North Carolina SSP. And then of course he's got another, he knows a lot about Fox bodies. Look, this is another FHP car. Just like mine's an FHP car, but yeah, he knows a lot about Fox bodies. Got a lot of Fox body parts around here. But anyway, enough talking from me. I'm gonna go ahead and grab Matt and we're gonna share a little bit more about what he's gonna be doing here. I'm so excited about this announcement. All right, and I found Matt, a busy guy around here, but Matt, welcome back to the channel, co-owner, Foxresto. Yep. And Matt, I kind of let the cat out of the bag. I went ahead without you and I kind of told him what you're starting to do. You're doing something that you basically did years ago. And you stopped doing because you started out in the business as a tech. You worked on all kinds of cars, but you switched primarily to Fox bodies when you started the business. You did work on customer cars, right?
Correct.
But you kind of missed it, right? If I understand, you kind of did enjoy some of that.
I did, yeah.
And working with me, I want to know if I had any impact on this, but we've been working on, I told him about my car, Nemesis, and you kind of realized working with me again, you really kind of like doing this kind of stuff, right?
I do,
yeah. So I'm pretty excited. So you're starting, we had the first one right there. I already told them about that one too. This is a customer car. They saw the channel, found you, called you up, said, do you want to work on the car? And so he's doing that. And Matt, you're going to do more cars. I already told him.
That's what we're looking forward to doing.
Okay. So there it is, fully out of the bag. But the real reason, Matt, is they want to probably know why they should bring a car to you. And so Matt, I think you started the business, Foxresto, what, around 20 some years ago or so?
2004.
Okay, all right. You started working on Fox bodies back at that time as well. You did a lot of things, but...
Yep. Yeah.
All right. And I think you did that, what, about 10 years or so?
About that.
Yeah.
Yeah, before we stopped working on them.
Yeah. And so basically he took a break from it, guys, and he's getting back into it. So he has a lot of experience on these cars. I mean, you pretty much know every nut and bolt in the Fox body.
I've been through them a few times.
Yeah, if you're not really sure and you don't believe us, check out all the other videos on the channel, but they're regular subscribers. I think they know that. So, but the real cool thing, Matt, and one of the things I really like is you have the right tools. For an example, I rebuilt the rear end over there in Nemesis, which they can kind of see right there. And I was able to do that because you had the right tools and your instructions.
There you go.
And there is a how-to series out on that, guys, in case you want to do that. But one of the big things that made that easy was the right tools.
Right, we didn't have to guess anything. We were able to measure everything. There was no reassembling, doing measurements, taking it back apart. You know, just be able to get it right in the first go.
Well, speaking of that, I think we set up our first tool. So let's do this, guys. We're gonna let Matt walk us through some of the specialized tools he has as a Ford tech, not just a Ford tech, really, I'm gonna call you a Foxbody tech. I don't know if that's a name, but that's what I'm gonna go with. And walk us through some of these specialty tools they've got here for working on stuff, Matt. I see out here on the table, some tools I recognize, some I don't, but I believe, you know, kind of leading in there for rear end rebuilding, but why do these tools matter? I mean, can't just anybody throw together a rear end?
Can anybody throw together a rear end? Yes. Will it be thrown together correctly? Probably not. And one of the biggest reasons is because pretty much every measurement within the rear end is measured to the thousandths of an inch. And you think about that, take an inch, separate it into 1,000 components, and that's how tight of a measurement
that's pretty precise.
Yeah, exactly. These are my specialty tools for working on a rear end. Basically, I call them luxury tools or maybe tools of refinement, and just basically the little extra bit that you need to make sure that you've done it 100% correct. And when you're rebuilding a rear end, one of the first things you want to check is make sure nothing's bent. So one of the first things we'll do after the rear end's taken apart, we have this right here. And this is basically a rear end tube alignment tool. It's got these two black collars. And so what we'd do is we'd take the rear end apart, we would take the chunk out with the bearing caps, we would bolt these round pucks into where the bearing cap goes, slide the tube through, and we'll be able to tell if the rear end housing's bent. And you don't want to do a full rebuild if the rear end housing's bent, because if it's bent, it's going to wipe out everything that you just put in there.
Then you get to do it all again, right?
Exactly, exactly. Yep. So
let's avoid that, I think. You know.
Yeah. So this is a great way to avoid that. One of the most important parts to setting up a rear end is setting the pinion depth. And there's a lot of different tools out there to do it. You can measure the depth of it, measure the height of the pinion from the flange surface on the gear, and do a bunch of math. Or you can get what I got, which is the original Ford tool, or the tool designed by Ford to rebuild their rear ends.
That sounds like the way to go.
Yeah, so that's basically what this is. And set up the pinion. Again, we take the chunk caps off, bolt this into where the chunk goes. We'd mount this in. It's a mock pinion, and it's a simple, once it's bolted in, I would find what shim fits between those the tightest, and that's the shim to put in, no guessing, and I'm done. And I know it's 100% right. Rebuilding rear ends, a lot of times guys just go standard 30 thousandths, throw 30 thousandths shim in, and they don't measure anything. You can get close, but you can still get some noise and stuff like that. Here, there's no guessing, I just throw it in and go.
And I remember on mine, Matt, if we would have thrown a 30 thousandths in my rear end that I rebuilt, that would have not worked.
Nope.
It was too much. I think it ended up being like 22 or something.
It was something like that, 22 or 23. And that is, again, that kind of highlights the importance of measuring this stuff, because over the years, some of these components have changed. And what I have been seeing for the past 2 or 3 years is that where most rear ends would set up, or most pinions would set up at 30 to 33 thousandths, I'm seeing now that they're going between 25 and 28 thousandths. And I believe that is the difference in the bearings that are being supplied now. It only takes a couple thousandths of an inch to throw something off, and if you got a different manufacturer that's doing it, it's very easy to add a couple of thousandths. And that couple of that 4 or 5 thousandths difference is going to be the difference between whether your rear end wears correctly and roars or makes noise or not.
Yeah, and one of the common things people do is they do change rear end gears quite a bit, you know, especially if you're into performance and stuff. And so what's neat about this is you can change it once, it's going to be done right.
Right.
And this is just one of the services you're going to be doing, right? People want to bring in their rear ends, they can do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're going to be doing basically everything but paint and body at this point, probably eventually getting into paint and body, but anything mechanical or interior restoration, we're a go.
Okay, so that's a good point. Anything like drivetrain wise, engine, trans, you know, suspension, brakes, interior restorations, you're going to do all that for customers.
Absolutely.
All right, I might need to get in line. No, I'm going to do my own work. We're going to keep this channel going, but that's pretty cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, you've already been in line. You've been here the whole time.
That's true. Except the difference is with me, I get to like do a lot of the work myself. So, and then if I do it wrong, Matt, you pointed out.
There you go.
And then sometimes I put that in the video. But anyway, okay, that's cool. So obviously they can drop off a rear end, but they could drop off a whole car like this customer did.
Yep.
We have a video coming up for this one pretty soon. That is a service I'm going to talk about in that video, but you will look over the entire car for the customer, right?
Absolutely.
And tell them what you think they can do to fix it, but they don't have to choose everything. Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
They can just choose what they want. But yeah, let's talk about some of the other things you specialize in though, because these tools are unique. These are Ford tools. You know, I know not everything we talked about requires unique tools, but I think there are some other things, correct?
Yes. And
Okay.
there's some tools that'll help. We
All right,
cover those.
let's take a look at the next set of tools that we got for that. Okay, and just like that, guys, we got a lot more tools here on the table that Matt, master mechanic. Matt is truly a master mechanic, actually. You were in the general field like 8 years before you focused on Foxbody. So what, 25 years total, is that right?
Yeah, I've been in the field for 25 years. Basically, I dropped out of high school and went to work at a tire shop. After my junior year, I just didn't go senior. Started working on cars, and within 8 years, I was actually a master tech. The last job in my field, I was working with a mentor, or my mentor at the time, which he was a master machinist, a master technician, and a race car builder. So
That's a great person to learn from.
Exactly. And everything he taught was meticulous. You measure, measure, and this one you don't have to guess.
Longtime viewers, if they want to know why you're a perfectionist, he's the reason. That's why I'm that way now too, thanks to you. So yeah, anyway, we'll blame him. But what do you have here? You got all kinds of stuff on the table. I kind of recognize this one, but it looks really from old. What does it do?
Yeah, well, again, this is another original Ford tool, and this is actually called an EEC monitor. This is what I do to, number one, test computers to verify they're good. Number two, if I have a engine management problem that I believe is in the computer system, I can hook this up and actually use it to read every signal coming from the computer for each circuit to hopefully help diagnose what the problem is.
In real time while the car's running, right?
In real time while the car's running, I can take it for a drive, and I've actually got a recorder that I can plug into these ports, and then that actually will record up to 5 circuits while I'm driving, so this way I can drive it and then go back and review the signals to see where I had a hiccup in the car.
Okay, yeah, it's very cool, because I know you rebuild computers too, but this is kind of to another level. What else do you have here on the table?
One of my other favorite pieces of equipment is this big thing right here, and it's basically called a smoke machine. You can use it to diagnose exhaust leaks, but I use it to diagnose vacuum or induction system leaks.
Those are kind of important, especially in EFI cars, right?
Absolutely, especially with mass air cars. You don't want any vacuum leaks on a mass air car. That is probably one of the biggest issues that I see coming through the shop is vacuum leaks in mass air cars. So I'll use this to diagnose and fix it, and this gets used on pretty much every single diagnostic, because even if they say the car is running perfectly, in about 80% of cars, I'll find a vacuum leak.
Yeah, you know what? Just to add to that, we did this test on my car, convertible outside, no leaks, and then I drove it, 3,000 miles, and I had a leak. I forget, what was it? You remember something went out on it? We had to replace it. I think it was on the intake. We had something had to be replaced on the intake.
A vacuum line came off.
Yeah. And so,
no, it was a vacuum cap blew out.
There you go. And that's just, it was literally just at 3,000 miles of driving. I think these caps were a little harder, and you realize that and said, oh, this isn't a great cap.
Right.
But that was a case where it was good to retest, even after 3,000 miles.
Yeah.
So it can happen.
And let me give you a real good bit of advice. If you want to make sure your car is staying in good running condition, just learn how to check your mileage on your fuel economy. And once you get a base, you check your fuel economy mileage every time you fill up the tank, and then when you've got a drop in fuel economy, you've got a problem in the engine, you need to take it in, even if it seems like the car is running fine.
I always thought that was a right foot problem. Maybe that's just for me though.
I'm sure some it is.
Cool. What else do you have here? This one I recognize. This is the oscilloscope.
Yep.
I know we used that before. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit first.
Yeah, this oscilloscope is great. I actually love this for engine and electrical diagnostics. I don't have it on right now, but once I turn it on, I can measure all different types of electronics and electrical signals from the car. And the reason I bought this particular one, it actually has an adapter that I can hook to the spark plug wires and see my thousands of voltage of ignition fire pattern to help diagnose an engine problem using the ignition pattern from the ignition coil and each spark plug individually.
And that's really valuable. Let me add this, because a lot of times we have starting problems, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you might just start replacing parts. Well, try the coil first. Well, try my spark plugs first. You know, and do that kind of thing. And with this tool, you don't need to do that. It'll tell you exactly where, right?
Right. And what you were talking about, we call that throwing parts at a car, or just throwing money at a car and wasting money. So it's always best to diagnose and know what's broken. And this way, you know, if I sell a service, I can actually say, this is broken, it's not working, this is why, here's the signal, this is the way the signal's supposed to work. So I can actually get factual information to use to diagnose the car correctly and not guess.
And not just throw parts at it. And you've been doing that. You never stopped doing that. I think you kept doing engine diagnostics forever, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I did this in the general field back in the day. Instead of having this thing, I literally had a cabinet diagnostic thing that was taller than this with a big monitor and a big arm with like 20 wires hooked to the car. And
you know, there was only one problem with that, if I remember.
What's that?
When you started it up, didn't it say, "Good morning, Dave"?
Good morning, Dave.
No, maybe that wasn't it. I don't know.
Maybe you might be dating yourself.
Yeah, it could be. But very powerful tool, and again, prevents you from throwing parts at it. And then you got a couple more here.
Yeah, just got a nice set of oil pressure gauges and fuel pressure gauges. Actually, this one just does engine and transmission oil, but it's got all the adapters to hook, check, automatic transmission fluid pressure, engine oil pressure, stuff like that.
What will that really help you with doing? Why would you need this versus whatever you would just normally replace the fluid or whatever?
It's funny you mentioned that because it's going to lead into this actually, because let's say you got an oil pressure gauge that's not working, right? Or it's low, okay? Well, that is definitely one of the things you want to fix, is you want to keep your oil pressure in the engine. So one of the things you can do is you can pull the sending unit out, you can screw this into the end where the oil pressure sending unit goes, and you can actually see a mechanical reading of what the actual oil pressure is. So you can determine then is it in the sending unit or the gauge, or is it actually in the engine? So if you hook this up and you've got good oil pressure, the engine's okay, now you're looking at your electrical system for your gauge.
So this rules out the mechanical, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you said leading to this, I'm guessing, I see like this looks electrical. Yeah. I don't know, I almost broke your soul there.
Little old school there too,
look at that
Ford Rotunda tool. It's a gauge system tester. This is really nice. The way the gauges work, they got a sending unit as let's say a temperature, as it gets hotter, the resistance goes up, so it changes the electrical value to the dash and makes the needle move. Well, if you want to check the electrical system, what this does, we've got these two little adapters here. You plug them in, you disconnect the sending unit, you hook this up between the sending unit wire and a ground, and then you can adjust the resistance by 3 different scales, and I can actually make the gauge needle do whatever I want by testing this. So if you know at what ohms the temperature gauge is supposed to read at 200 degrees, I can set this ohms for the correct ohm resistance for 200 degrees, and if the gauge says anything other than that, I know I have an electrical problem in the system or a bad gauge.
So you can roll out the electrical side with that. The only thing you mentioned there, though, that's a problem for me, is I don't know what the ohms are. But you do. Are you a tool here, too? Do you know the ohms? You have those memorized?
You know what? This is a lot of people's going to laugh at me about this. I did not remember the high output firing order for a 302. And I know that's one of the first things that everybody remembers, but you know what? I don't remember that. I don't commit that to memory because I know where to look it up.
Oh, okay. That's a good point, because I've seen this, guys, but I need to show you. When he needs to find out how to do something on the Foxbody like that, firing order, but also many other things, you have a source, right, Matt?
I do.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's bring in Matt's source. All right, and there we go, Matt. The table has changed once again through the power of editing, and this must be your source, I'm guessing.
This here is the best tool of them all. It is information on how to diagnose, repair, replace, everything on this car from bumper to bumper. This is all original Ford documentation. This is what I use for reference material. I got everything from specification books to where I can look up the ohm resistance on those, all the way down to the torque specs on a quarter window nut, and everything else between wiring harnesses, even a pre-delivery manual, which obviously doesn't get used much. But yes.
But you have it, and this is just one of those, right? Because I've seen a lot more books than this, guys, and this is just for 85.
This is just 85.
You have a bunch of other years as well.
Got a bunch of other years, and I have all the information to work on these cars properly.
And so, but I have a question with that, Matt, because these books are pretty much, they're going to tell you how to get back to factory specs and stuff. But I know with my car, modified car, heads cam intake, we use these books as well. So how much of that knowledge applies? Most people think of you as just doing your Fox Mustang restoration.
Right.
So they think of you just more doing stock stuff. Is that kind of the limits, or what's your feeling on that?
No, I mean, pretty much I'll build pretty much anything that somebody wants. The nice thing is whenever you're building those performance motors, to make them run well, they still use all of the theories and operations of the original car. So as long as you understand how that original car works and how everything works together, you can modify a car and make it work correctly, run well, long distance, dependability. Just because you're building a motor that has a lot of power does not mean it's just a weekend warrior. You know, we can build a car that's got 500 horsepower and it's good enough to get AC and drive across the country.
Drive cross country, yeah. I was absolutely going to mention that because all the driving I did with my car, which was awesome. And we have, you know, other people in the industry too, like as far as tuning, right? Yes. We got my car tuned over at Power Curve Motorsports by Rob. And you put the combinations together, you can tell Rob what you're doing.
Right.
You can get him in there and he can tune it just right for that. Also, when it comes to engine building, you disassemble everything. But I believe you do take your parts to a reputable engine builder who builds high horsepower cars over at Kannapolis Engines,
Yes.
Adam, right? So you have contacts that you work with.
And I've been working with for years.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you're not doing paint and body yet, something you're going to get into, but along those lines, you do have somebody that you work with in that area as well.
Absolutely, yes. I got some guys that I use that I can send a car to. So if you end up wanting a bumper-to-bumper restoration,
full turnkey, right?
Resto mod, yeah, we can do a full turnkey setup.
Very awesome. So Matt, you know what you're doing, I know what you're doing, but in case they're new to the channel or they're not sure, we have also a bunch of videos. I mean, I've had over 300 videos now on the channel, Matt.
Yeah.
So not all of them are with him, but a lot are.
A lot are. You spend some weekends here.
Yes, yes. I live here occasionally, owe them rent, but no, seriously. There are many how-to videos on the channel that Matt is fully covering. I know we had the oscilloscope out here earlier that was here. We have a whole video on using that. I think it was starting 86 out there. Yep. But we have a lot of those. So if you want to know more about what Matt can do and offer, check out the how-to playlist. I'll have that down below. I think it's like 60 videos, so if they binge watch that, I'll be happy. They might not be, but we try to make it entertaining too here on the channel. Yeah. But yeah, so there you go. That's all the whole deal. And Matt, are you ready to start accepting cars now?
I am, yeah. They can contact me by emailing through the website, which is parts@foxresto.com, or they can just give the shop a call during normal business hours. It's 704-888-1278.
Perfect, perfect. And I will put that info up on the screen, of course, and I'll have it down in the description below. And I also have the foxresto.com link down there below as well, because Matt, you do sell restoration parts, right?
Yep. When I actually got out of the mechanical field, back 18 years ago, I actually started by selling parts.
Yeah, a lot of that's new old stock, which you still have, some new old stock, but you also have just reproduction aftermarket
Yeah,
parts.
and that's a good thing, because here's a great benefit to working with me, especially now in this time and day. A lot of people are hearing you're having problems getting parts. Well, not only am I a mechanic that knows how to work on the cars, I have also been managing parts inventory for almost 20 years for these cars. So a lot of it I have here.
Yeah, and you have the contacts.
I have and a lot of it I know exactly. I have the contacts. I know where to find a lot of it.
Which is awesome, because I still need to build Nemesis, and I'm gonna need a lot of parts for that. So I'm being selfish for myself. But yeah, they have that too, and they can get 10% off of a lot of those parts with the Gearhead 704 promo code. It's not all, but you can see that information down below. So check that out. Also, new website is coming as well, in case you've been to the old website. When you're watching this video, the new one might be up already, so check that out. But yeah, that's all coming, all excited. Matt, I'm really excited. I can't wait, personally, to see some of the cars coming here, like this triple white one that came in today. I had so much fun going over that. All original, and there's gonna be a lot of cool Foxes in here, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah, so that's the goal. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. So there you go, guys. Big announcement. Fox Mustang Restoration is now accepting your Fox bodies to work on them, even turnkey solutions if you want. Pretty exciting. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button. That helps me out a lot. If you're stopping in for the first time, please subscribe, because I do upload 2 times a week. You count on that consistent content, and you get to see all these cool Fox bodies that are gonna come through here, and hopefully some of our projects will get done too, Matt, but maybe not, because who knows, we're gonna be busy with all these cars.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, I hope to get started on them soon.
Yeah, so he's excited, I'm excited, and that's it. We'll see you here next time with Gearhead 704. Okay, just like that. I know I didn't do the snap beforehand, but we have a bunch of new parts out here through the power of editing. These aren't parts, what am I saying? These are actually technical instruments, tools. They're tools, Matt.
That is what I call them.
Okay. This has got to go in the bloopers, technical instruments. I'm in IT, guys, in case you wanted to know, so that's probably why I went that way. Anyway, let's redo this.